Good evening, and welcome to the City of Burbank Police Commission meeting for November 19, 2025. I would like to call this meeting to order and begin with roll call.
Commissioner Chapman?
Here.
Commissioner Coombs?
Present.
Vice Chair Ellman?
Here.
Chair Hakobian?
Present.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Present.
Commissioner McKenna?
Present.
And Commissioner Wenzel?
Present.
Thank you, everyone. Now we can move on to the flag salute in the spirit of Veterans Day. I would like to invite Paul to lead us. Paul and Narbe, thank you both for your service.
Please run the appropriate salute. Join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I want to announce the public comment period will begin shortly. For community members here in person, please complete a speaker card, yellow or white, and hand it to staff. In-person speakers will speak first and have up to 3 minutes. For those wishing to phone in, please call 818-238-3335. Callers will be placed in queue and will speak after all in-person comments have been received. So we're going to start with item C, commission announcements and reporting out by commissioners and ad hoc subcommittees. And let's go and start from our left to right. Arbe?
Yeah, thank you. As the commission knows, I went to attend the NACOL conference with Commissioner Coombs late last month in Minneapolis. It was fantastic. It was my first exposure to NACOL, the National Association for the Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. And I definitely learned a lot about the oversight community, the present challenges, especially with kind of the change in the federal government, the administration, how the Department of Justice is kind of conducting oversight and feedback and support for those organizations. And hopefully I can take some of the tools that I learned and apply them in the work we do here. Looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
Paul?
Thank you, sir. First, I'd like to thank our public affairs officer for phenomenal video he put out about the e-bikes. Not only was it educational, but it was also educational to the consequences. My wife and I have been riding 3 to 4 times a week, and it's become more and more necessary every time we ride. It's amazing the speed and the size of the vehicles, especially on the bike path and sidewalks. I also want to thank our deputy chief and his crew that were at our golf ball drop. We gave out over 70 bicycle helmets and orange stickers for the back of children's baby seats. I think it was very well received. And also the deputy chief and the contingent that showed up for Veterans Day. Thank you very much for being there.
On November 12th, myself, as part of the executive team of the Police Commission, met with our chief for a very interesting discussion on the commission and the department. Thank you.
Good evening. I am always pleased to learn more about our DUI checkpoints. I think they're important, necessary. I know there was one about, a month and a half ago. I also attended our meeting with the chief. I defer to the chair to report out on that. And I loved the flyover. There were 2 on Veterans Day. And also I really like the increase in social media. I really like seeing those, and I think they benefit our community. So silent applause. And that's it. Thank you.
I only have one thing to mention. November 15th was Officer Pavelka's anniversary for the 23rd year since he was killed on duty. And I just want to keep his memory alive. Thank you.
Thank you. 2 things to report on. One, I got to attend the NACOL conference with Narbe, and it was a fantastic experience. It was a lot to take in. We have materials that were downloadable, so we're happy to share those with the commission as we can, since they were published from the conference. Instead of trying to summarize everything that we experienced, 2 things. One, there's a lot of tools that I walked away from that I'm hoping to be able to apply. The second, if you can humor me, I've got a list of kind of universal truths that I came across that really kind of resounded in the conference. Side note, Michael Giannacco was a featured speaker and facilitator at a couple of different panels and laid out some challenges to everybody that was at the event as well. But these are the truths that I came across. Criticism is uncomfortable. Real partnership is not complacent. Cumulative trauma can come from local, regional, national, and international sources. Community partnership is critical. Constitutional policing is the bare minimum. Meaningful data collection is important. Any process that goes through public input is going to have complaints. We want to promote the presence of the police commission wherever we can, and we want to focus on the community experience of policy, of community experience of policing and looking at policies. So that's what I walked away from. It was a packed 4 days. And then the second thing I want to report on is I was able to attend a multi-faith panel this past week, and just the reason I'm bringing it up is it featured Rabbi Sobel, who's the police chaplain, one of the police chaplains. So that was good to be able to participate at that. It was in conjunction with the Burbank Human Relations Commission.
Wonderful. Thank you, James. And thank you, everyone. So as Ann and Michael mentioned, on November 12th, myself, Vice Chair Ellman, and Secretary Wenzel met with Chief Quintero and Deputy Chief Cornelius in the spirit of cooperation to discuss how we can work more effectively together. It became clear to adopt a more structured approach to how we place items on our agenda, how we that would help us operate more efficiently and make sure we, while we're maintaining our independence. Our executive team believes that beginning next year, we should move forward with a clear framework to ensure the items we agendize are focused and not repetitive in any way that creates unnecessary demands for the department. And we also discussed the importance of strengthening our community engagement efforts, and this framework will help us approach that work with more clarity and purpose. And that's all. And now we're going to go ahead and move over to the public comment period. Again, if you filled out a white card, I have one here. I'm going to call you up to the podium. So the first card that we have is Christopher Flowers. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Christopher Flowers. I am a local online development counselor for Grand Canyon University. For the past 4 years, I have been working in Santa Clarita, mostly with teachers, nurses, and first responders. The Burbank community has also been placed under my care recently as well. I've already started working with the local high schools at their college fairs, with Providence St. Joe's, and Burbank, Kiwanis, and Chamber. I met some of you, I think, at National Night Out in August, and though I've worked kind of sparsely with CHP and CAL FIRE in Santa Clarita, I didn't want to come back to you until I found out more about what's going on with the successes at LAPD. I ran into Romick at the Chamber offices, which is why I got here today. Currently, there's been a growing interest in more officers acquiring a bachelor's, both locally and on the state level. So what I'm hoping to help with here is an educational relationship with the Burbank PD to assist in this area. Currently, we have close to 300 programs online for any employee, civilian or otherwise, but of primary interest here and what has been so exciting for the growing partnerships with LAPD and Santa Monica PD is our new Bachelor's of Law Enforcement Advancement. I brought Counselor Sherry Freeman, who's been enrolling cohorts and cohorts of officers from LAPD in Santa Monica, who recently helped place over 40 officers into a bachelor's program. Part of that success story is that we are able to waive up to 21 of the officers' post-academy credits now, as well as evaluate any other college credits that they may have. That, coupled with our first responder scholarship, makes it very affordable for officers who want to advance their education for pay or promotion. And the online format makes best use of their limited time. What we have found that works best to facilitate success is to be placed inside the department community on a monthly basis. This can take many forms, either as a 2-hour monthly office hour availability, monthly digital flyers, speaking at roll call, or individual scheduled events. But we work with each department to find out what works best for you for ease of execution and use of your time. I make myself available for appointments with any interested party where they get an unofficial price and schedule to review. There's no application fee and, more importantly, no entrance exams for acceptance. What I'm hoping to get across today is that GCU is unlike other universities because they hire a member of the community to help inject the resources of GCU back into the community. I myself worked down the street for 18 years, so Burbank is a bit of a second home for me, and it's nice to be back. My teammates and I are available for future meeting with the appropriate administrator, training coordinator, or career development team to discuss options, the increased scholarship of cohorts, and to share how we're helping LAPD, LAUSD, SMPD, and the Peace Officers Research Association. Thank you all for what you do, for your time, and I look forward to hopefully meeting and helping the department as best we can. Okay?
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
And we don't have any other cards, correct? We have one more? Okay.
Councilmember Rosati.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and Commission members, for your service. Anyone go to the No Kings Rally or the Charlie Kirk Memorial? I saw you at the Charlie Kirk. I thought it is a really good way if you want to see our department in a situation. So the Charlie Kirk Memorial, we had 20 officers in City Hall, just in case things got out of hand. There were drones in the air. There were guys on the roof. The streets were blocked off. They were prepared. And I think as commission members, it might be a good idea to maybe come to some of these events, not necessarily as a participant, but as a witness, to see exactly how these guys are performing on duty. Same thing with the No Kings Rally. Not as a participant, but I just wanted to see how our department is handling situations. And I commend you. I believe I sent an email just saying I was just totally blown away how prepared we were in case things just went awry. I felt very comfortable, very safe, and I believe Councilmember Anthony was with me, and we both commented on the same thing. So I just wanted to bring that. As commission members, I think it's a great way to look at our department when they're actively working. So, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I just want to also acknowledge that council members, Mullins is also in the audience. Thank you both for being here. And with the, I guess the in-person comments are done. Do you have any callers?
No calls pending.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to move on to item E, commission responses to public comment, and we'll go ahead and start with James.
Thank you both for speaking today. No comments.
I have attended a number of the protest by Buena Vista Library. I live very close to there. It would be hard not to participate. And what I appreciated, and I think I commented on after the first one, was that the presence was reserved. And in other words, it was noticed. What I saw was a couple of times police officers on motorcycles would just drive by, drive around, park on the side, couple of cars. And I think one time I was letting you know that things were going well, but I appreciated the reservation of the presence. And I think that was most appropriate.
Thank you, Ann. Vice Chairman?
Well, I'd like to thank Grand Canyon University for attending. Gives a lot of opportunity to people who weren't aware of the program. Thank Councilman Rosati for bringing the attention of the protests that have taken place in the city. I attended the Charlie Kirk event from across the street because I just wanted to observe. And what I saw was our department adapted its techniques to a different situation. And it's good to see that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Every situation is unique. Thank you.
I'd like to follow up on that by saying I think we've had a number of presentations in the last year about how these would be handled. And I think that what Councilmember Rosati was basically commenting on was preparation meeting necessity. And obviously the Burbank Police were prepared. And I everything from, we were giving presentations on what type of things are allowed at Dodger Stadium and they wouldn't be allowed inside a protest, breaking it down like that. But these are all things that needed to be done 6 months ago, and they were. And so when the events happened, they were prepared. And as a citizen and as a board member or commission member, I say thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So, Mr. Flowers, thank you so much for coming down and sharing your public comment. I know we met at the chamber, and the information you provided, we really appreciate that. And Councilmember Rosati, thank you so much for your comments. You know, unfortunately, I couldn't be at any of those events. However, I know I talked to Vice Chair Ellman. He mentioned how impressed he was with the way everything was set up for them by the BPD, and we appreciate that. Thank you. And so next, we're going to move on to item F, approval of minutes for September 17, 2025. And can I get a motion for approval? Paul motions, and Michael seconds. All approve? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Move forward. And next, we're going to move on to the items of business. The first one is going to be presentation and discussion of Chief Quintero's vision and priorities for BPD. Come on, Chief.
That was my walk-up introduction music. I like it. I like it. That was intentional. How we planned it actually worked out. Thank you. Good evening, Chair Hakovian and fellow commissioners. How's everybody tonight? Rafael Quintero, Chief of Police, by the way, in case you didn't know who I was. Is it up? The PowerPoint, please. There we go. Before I begin tonight, I'd like to take a couple of moments to acknowledge just kind of everyone who's in this room. And I can't believe that it's been 7 months in this role. You talk about how fast time flies. It seemed like just yesterday I was having my interview. And more than anything, kind of what I want to say, what I want to state is just how grateful and privileged I am for being your police chief, but also for having the opportunity to work within this city. And there's 2 words that I often use when I'm out in the community. One is gratitude, and then just the other is how embracing the overall community is. And you feel it, you sense it, and I think that's what makes Burbank very special. I know I had conversations with you before I came here, and I had that same feeling and sentiment. And as you go across, whether it's the community, having discussions with council members, and even within the organization, that feeling that is very authentic, it's very comforting for me. It's gratitude is the word that comes to mind. And I definitely would have to acknowledge this commission, council as a whole, my command staff team, and the men and women within the organization also for being very embracing and welcoming. It gives me energy. It's the reason why I show up every day and what makes me do what I do and gives me purpose. So just wanted to note that. First slide, please. Next one. Oh, there we go. So my guiding philosophy is really service above self. And if you were at my swearing-in ceremony, the words that I actually used was it's not about me. And it really isn't about me. And that's why I say service above self and the importance of serving the greater community, serving the men and women within this organization as a whole, and what that means and the purpose that it gives me. My overall arching philosophy is organization first, people second, and professionalism. Organization first, why? It keeps me grounded. It's very objective. There are things that Chief Quintero would like to do or achieve that are not in line with what is best for the organization. And that's why I say organization first. Specifically, any of the decisions that I make have to be aligned with our mission, where we are going as a city, our city goals, our vision, and then just the priorities for the greater community. People, the heartbeat of the organization. And I think any organization, you have to understand and know and recognize that our people are what drives us. And without taking care of them, focusing on their professional development, focusing on their wellness, focusing on their leadership, like we as an organization will not be successful. And recognizing that everyone has value and caring personally about them. I think often, especially within this role within law enforcement, we are kind of scared in using the word love and loving your people and recognizing and acknowledging them. And here to say, hey, look, it's okay. It's okay. I think we should be vulnerable and show them that we care and the importance of that and recognizing our people. 3, professionalism in all we do, how we act, how we speak, how we show up. And it's important. It's what the community expects out of us. We're held to a higher standard. And definitely when we don this uniform, representing it well, not only the city of Burbank, but the profession in general, as far as showing up as professionals. And what I will say, or always kind of one of my quotes is, be a pro. Whatever you do, be a pro. And this philosophy guides my daily decision making, and it's kind of the framework of what you will see in discussing my 100-day plan and then the vision for the future. So the first 100 days, I think my head is still spinning. I know I say 7 months in and I feel a certain level of comfort as far as being around the city. Now I'm a little bit better with names, don't have to kind of focus as much when I see a certain familiar face to kind of recognize. But initially, it's a lot. Stepping into this role, coming in 24 years with the city of Glendale, coming over to a new city, making new relationships, connections, understanding new systems, processes, and everything that is city of Burbank, brings its own kind of difficulty and challenge. And for me, I describe it as the listen, learn, and assess phase of kind of my assessment, kind of the first 30 days. Really trying to immerse myself within the organization, within the community, to have a really good understanding of those things that I need to prioritize. So my internal assessment was just that. Internally, having a discussion kind of with command staff, trying to understand the challenges within the organization, where we've been, what we've been doing, and kind of the intention of where we want to go. Met with frontline supervisors, met with our personnel, still meeting with our personnel. One of my goals within the first 30 days and kind of for this year has been meeting with everyone, professional staff or sworn, for this entire year. 30-minute sessions, it's just a conversation. Just find those opportunities to connect, develop that relationship. And going back to what I said before, where there are certain things that I am trying to prioritize within the organization that I believe are important based on the information that I got before coming here, that through these one-on-one sessions, I have learned that might not probably need a pivot, need a change. There are certain areas such as like mental health and overall wellness that are important for the people that I've kind of modified my priorities that you will hear later. That also include a thorough review of the policies, staffing levels, budgets, and then overall crime trends, recognizing that Burbank, just like other cities within, our neighbor right next door, right, are relatively safe cities. And there are ways that we can improve as an organization and still make it even more safe. The next part was reviewing the organizational structure within the organization. And for me, it comes down to operational efficiency and effectiveness. Are those things that we've been doing the best for the organization? And through that process, having discussions specifically with my command staff, we learned that there were a couple of modifications and tweaks that we could do, improving our operational effectiveness and how we deliver service, and also doing what's best for our people and setting them up for success, aligning it with their strengths. Community engagement was that second component and piece that definitely is very important. Not only is it important to me, but important for the community in being able to connect with their police department. That meant connecting with businesses, with schools, with advocacy groups, and I'd like to believe, if you don't believe me, you could just go to my social media page and kind of see it, but for the most part, I try to highlight, or staff tries to highlight everything that we do. We want to be as transparent as possible and let them know that we are a resource for them. So that is something that we have been prioritizing. Engaging with the police commission, city council, and city manager, understanding what your priorities are, city council's goals and priorities are, and making sure that all our priorities are aligned and we're all going towards the same goal. Transparency and communication. That meant reviewing the internal and external communication strategies of how we communicate. A lot of it has to do with just our current platforms, our website being one of those, and how we're holding ourselves accountable, how we communicate within the website, that platform, and then social media as another medium for communicating out and providing necessary information that may be beneficial to the community. So the first 31 to 60 days. First 31 to 60 days was really kind of focusing on crime reduction and overall public safety. And where did I lose? I lost my place, my notes. So that meant reviewing, I think you mentioned it before, someone mentioned it before, is like those data-driven strategies, really using the systems that we currently have in place to the best of their ability, and being overly critical of those things. What are those things that we want to focus on? Just coming here, I knew that traffic safety was a big priority for the city, whether that was collisions, traffic collisions, pedestrian collisions, and just overall kind of the perception of traffic safety are some of the complaints that I was receiving. Focusing also on strengthening our mental health team, knowing that since 2012, that has been a really important piece for the overall city of Burbank, and also in how we deliver services to the greater community, especially with things that have happened within the last 5 years, understanding and recognizing that a police officer isn't always the answer, that there are other ways that we can respond and assist the community in their time of need outside of sending a police officer. And hence, through council's direction and just greater conversation, the reason that we have a CSO now, to share some of that load and have them in a more supportive role. Technology and innovation. Technology and innovation is something that is very important to me. Not only because when I keep talking, you'll hear me keep talking about just operational efficiency and effectiveness, and where the world is today as far as using systems to their capability that allows or frees up a police officer to do the crime prevention aspect, the crime deterrence aspect, and let systems automate it itself, collect that necessary information through like automated license plate readers. And what I'll be discussing later, through onboarding these systems and hardware and developing and building out a real-time intelligence center that allows us to virtually police or protect our city a lot more effectively, which ultimately drives down our response times and gives us a blanket general of safety, allowing us, not necessarily Big Brother-ish, but being proactive in accessing cameras that are already public-facing and are not invasive by any means for anybody else, recognizing that controls and policies are in place to ensure we are very respectful of the community's privacy. The other portion is recruitment and retention. When I came on, I think we were right around 152 officers. Currently, we are hovering right around 146. We've lost some of that through attrition. Some were not successful in the training program, and we expect to lose more. I can assure you that our Cops Bureau is hiring at a very rapid rate, and we still can't keep up. I mean, we have right now in the pipeline, we have at least 8 that are currently in training. We have 6 that are in the academy, but as you may or may not know, those 14, it's going to be at least almost a year before you see them as what we call a solo beat officer within the field. So understanding and recognizing within those first 31 to 60 days, trying to prioritize what's important for the organization, that recruitment and retention piece being absolutely essential. So the next 61 to 100 days, now I'm trying to prioritize investments in training, technology, and overall wellness for the officers. Looking at other avenues outside of our budget, such as grant funding that can benefit the department. Currently, we have a couple of grants, the Office of Traffic Safety one. We had submitted for a grant for, I know SROs is a priority for the schools. Also, wellness, we haven't been successful in some of the grants, but we're consistently looking for grants or funding outside of our budget, understanding and being fiscally responsible that, you know, that might not be an avenue as far as getting these positions. Community trust and engagement. We launched what I call the Faces of BPD initiative. And what I mean by that is, even though I am present out in the community, I don't want it to just be the chief as the face of the organization. I want it to be the faces of the organization, being the men and women within the organization, being present and being visible and engaged. Because the reality is, like your patrol officers and other officers and professional staff with the organization are the ones that you are going to be seeing. You're not going to be seeing me. And I want you to be able to know them, be able to have a conversation with, and what I call create that relationship that humanizes that officer, humanizes the badge, so it breaks down those barriers that not necessarily exist here, but may exist elsewhere. Also, re-engaging with the schools, developing the relationship, having conversation, doing the outreach with the superintendent, Oscar Macias, understanding what their challenges are, knowing the importance and what the impact is of things that happen within the schools and how that impacts you as not only as commission members, but also as parents, as uncles, as friends. And then the developing a succession planning framework, going back to recruitment and retention. Look, the reality is my time, it's already been 7 months in, 5 years, my game plan for my commitment to this organization will be here before you know it. And if there is an area that we need to improve and be better at, is developing our future leaders, or what I say, finding your next replacement. So I think we've been, at least in the last month, we've been having conversations, being overly aggressive, recognizing that that's a priority early on, now starting to develop a framework moving forward on what that will look like in developing our future leaders. And the reality, as big of an organization as we are, big as a city as we are, 17 square miles, 105,000, say one of the best within the region. There is no reason why we should not have our next Burbank chief be someone from within. So did I skip something? No. So what have we accomplished within the first 6 months? I've already mentioned some of it, realigning our supervisors and managers to maximize our strengths, reorganizing the structure within the organization, specifically the bureaus, just little tweaks that have made big differences and set up people for success moving forward within the organization. Some of those being our Cops Bureau, focusing more on the hiring aspect. Our Professional Standards Bureau focusing on transparency and accountability. That includes building out certain dashboards that are automated to give the community the information that they need, when they become curious. Instead of having to wait for our response and get the information, it will be accessible and on our website. Process modernization, eliminating inefficiencies and redundancies within the organization. As we all know, government can be very status quo. And for me, that is something that I am not a fan of, is just the status quo. I like to kind of challenge the norm and find opportunities where we can improve and be better. The technology advancement. We are working on building out what I would call a real-time intelligence center light. We have all the systems, software necessary, and we have already had success from onboarding some of this software within our current systems. Where we need to be next is developing and building out the infrastructure for a real-time intelligence center where we're able to staff it full-time, where we can virtually police and protect the city. Some of the software and what we're talking about, the successes that we've had, we all know the traffic cameras that exist throughout the city, and there's license plate readers using technology. We're able to now, through this software, when a call comes in, being able to strategically pull up cameras, locations, be live on scene within seconds of that call coming in, and direct resources accordingly to deal or handle that problem, and also de-escalate a situation. When we get a certain call for service that comes in, be able to refute or identify it to be a credible threat as far as what is going on. Training and development, focusing, we reassigned a sergeant, focus specifically, sole job. One of the things, area for improvement for us is training. So now we have a sergeant that is completely dedicated to training, focus on curriculum, developing that, constantly looking for best practices, networking with other agencies within the region, and forming those partnerships and relationships where we can train with other organizations within the region, specifically when it comes to emergency management and crisis response when dealing with critical incidents. And the last piece, wellness and culture. I had mentioned it before as far as through my one-on-one sessions, what I found out in those conversations, wellness being an important piece. And in 2026, right now, we are in the early stages of researching programs, companies, to bring a more robust and comprehensive program to the organization that could benefit not only sworn but also professional staff, understanding and recognizing the demands of the job and just how over time the cumulative trauma that exists within the profession, like giving them some support and resources on how to manage and mitigate that stress. So identifying my strategic priorities for the future. So in no particular order, the Real-Time Intelligence Center being one of those. Build a modern, fully integrated intelligence center that supports officers, the investigations, and the community. Key components of it would be create the infrastructure network necessary to support exactly what I have already described. And as I stated before, we already have a lot of these on board of software and systems. Now we just need to develop and build out the space, and that is something that we're currently working on and trying to be creative within our budget in how do we bring that as soon as possible. The good thing is I got really good men and women who have creatively used our current systems and are already accessing it, from the patrol officer to the communications operator to our intelligence analysts, in being successful in how we respond to incidents. Now, why it matters: faster response times, enhance intelligence for officers, increased efficiency, higher clearance rates, and just overall greater public safety for the community. Number 2 is training and professional development, creating a highly trained, confident, and professional workforce. So key initiatives there been to professionalize the training bureau and the curriculum development, build leadership pipelines and structured sergeant programs, emphasize mental health, de-escalation, communication, and then modern tactics, and an annual training plan that is aligned with best practices from the peace officers' standards and training. And the outcome being creating a workforce that is highly skilled, accountable, and confident in what they do. Number three, if I was going to say if I'm prioritizing one over the other, that's probably number three. The hiring succession planning within the organization is going to be rise up to my list as far as being number one. You know, improving the hiring process with human resources, MSD, recognizing that that is a pain point bottleneck for us in getting personnel. We've gave it the attention that it deserves, and we will in next month have 4 background investigators. Normally it's been done with 2. And then we also use a company to outsource some of this. So the only way that we are going to trend in the right direction and then get to that 160, be in a position where I can go to the city manager, city council, and ask for more resources is getting to that number 160 is we're going to have to prioritize. And then that's the reason why we have 4 officers. So we've added background investigators, and as Ann mentioned it earlier, social media aspect, how we are marketing ourselves, how we are branding ourselves, how we are trying to reach out not only the Burbank community, but the greater community within the LA region, and also focusing on laterals, getting them into the organization. Why? Because a lateral, much shorter time in getting them onboarded and ready out in the community than a new officer taking a year. Significantly cut it by over half. Succession planning, identifying future leaders early, expanding specialized assignments within the organization, and then creating development pathways for sworn and professional staff. We've already started doing that as far as identifying leaders within the organization, recognizing their strengths, their weaknesses, setting them up. Hence, I already discussed it as well. The reason that they've been placed in the certain positions that they've been placed is set them up for success and then keep developing, recognizing and understanding that we have a very young workforce. And if we don't plan, we will not be successful into the future. And then culture and wellness, strengthening mental health resources, which promotes professionalism and pride and takes care and supports our personnel. So where Burbank PD is going, organization first, aligned with mission and service, powered by people who are valued, trained, and supported, and then defined by professionalism, transparency, and trust. So the reality is, we can't achieve this alone, and we have to be all hands in. Everybody has to be top of mind, focus, committed. Starts with having you helping us, supporting us in achieving some of these goals. You already have. Council has already supported in the greater community. So I appreciate the level of support that I have seen in making sure that we are aligned and committed in moving Burbank PD in a much better organization. So thank you.
Chief, thank you so much for that very enlightening and insightful presentation. We're going to open it up to our commissioners for questions. And we can start with Narbe.
Oh, pick me? No, no.
Should I go?
Who wants to go first?
I can jump in.
James, just jump in.
So, Chief, I had the honor of being on the interview panel last spring and everything, and it was a wonderful process and everything. Anything that we talk, you've got the job. So anything we talk about from here on out, it's not an interview anymore. Nobody's putting you on the hot seat or anything like that. There were a number of things, again, based on the conference that we recently went to that really, I've been thinking about this for a while. The conference kind of solidified it, and there's some things that you talked about as well. some of them are just kind of technical things. So first off, can you share a little bit more with technology innovation? Can you share a little bit more about, you said you were getting creative with the budget to be able to implement some of this. One of the things that I'd like us to be able to do is to be able to dive deeper with you and with your team to understand the need and understand the cost so we can more effectively advocate for that. Can you talk a little about some of the budget constraints or budget issues that you're experiencing related to the technology piece?
So technology is very expensive.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at software, comes at a cost. You look at currently our systems such as Axon, our body-worn camera, in-car camera, projected out contractually for X amount of years. It comes at a cost of several $1 million. And that's just the current technology allows us to live stream feeds off our current cameras just so we can have better situational awareness. The other systems that interact or complement Axon, and the reason I didn't mention the names is because it will probably go over everybody's head, right? But other systems like Fusus, other systems like Peregrine that complement and give you additional information or layers that through Axon, where you're doing investigations, now you're receiving more information in real time to further help you in your investigations. So all these systems, we're talking in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And knowing that budgets are not, infinite, like they are limited, I have to be creative within my current budget. The way I'm creative within my current budget is using the salary savings associated with our current positions, having those vacancies, but that has a limit because you also have to be mindful factoring in a variety of other things. And I don't want to get into the minutia of the budget and kind of where that puts me over time or otherwise, just addressing that currently we've been onboarding these systems through salary savings is how we've been achieving it.
Actually, I think you actually got right to what I was interested in. There's managing the budget as far as purchases to provide the standard of business that we expect.
Correct.
But then there's managing the budget for advancements and growth, and those are two different things. And so I appreciate you naming that. One of the things that we learned from the conference is that there's a lot of really cool toys out there.
There are.
We learned about a device through Axon that translates into 67 different languages or something like that in real time and everything. But we also learned that there's a cost that comes with that. So we can't have everything that goes on. So I appreciate that, and I'd like to see how maybe if there's a way that we can be to partner and help with not just identifying what is and what the standard stuff is. There are costs associated with running a department that we have to cover those. But if there's a way to make, for lack of a better description, a wish list and a description as to why we might need those things, I would really like to see if we could partner on that to help with that. You mentioned staff savings. Salary savings as well. I work with a large organization as well. We've talked a lot about that there are 160 budgeted sworn officer positions for the city. I want to reemphasize that with any large mid-sized to large, actually any sized organization, there's going to be a number of vacancies because of people retiring, people leaving, people choosing, as you and I had talked about before, people choosing that this maybe not be the right career for them. A lot of different reasons. I just want to lift up for everybody that 160 number is a budgeted number, but I think we need to let go of the idea of having 160 positions filled at all times, because that's an unrealistic benchmark for any organization. And I appreciate what you're doing around using the salary savings to work with that. But I just want to reemphasize that because I keep on hearing that come up where there's something wrong with not filling all the positions. It's not possible in any large organization. So I just want to lift that up. I got a bunch of other notes, but I really want to open it up for the rest of the commissioners as well.
Thank you, James. Anybody else? Nabe?
Yeah, first of all, let me just say how much I think as a citizen of Burbank, how much I appreciate all the public outreach you're doing. It's stuff I've definitely heard a lot from my neighbors and friends in the community just about. I know you don't want to be the only face of the department, but as a face of the department, what a positive experience it's been. I've heard nothing but rave reviews about people hearing your story and getting to know you. I think as a chief and as a department, I think it's important for the community to recognize that, officers and especially the leadership are accessible. They're in the community to provide a service, and that the community members feel, comfortable kind of approaching. I think you've done a lot of work in, 7 months, relatively short amount of time. I think social media has definitely helped with that. So kudos to that.
Thank you.
And I also want to kind of piggyback on what James brought up. Definitely, I see a lot of value in real-time intelligence. I can totally understand where you're coming from with that, and I really appreciate you kind of. It's a fine line, but how you address it as virtual policing, but not crossing that line into becoming Big Brother. I think whether it's discussions about budget or about these systems, there is a lot of public discussion about not only the privacy of the technology and the devices, but also the underlying data and who has access to it, and how some of these private entities that provide these services and these technologies control that information. So I think transparency, is a very, very important moving forward, and getting a long-term buy-in from the community on this RTIC project. So I look forward in discussing that with you more as this matures. But just kind of holistically, where you are now, I think reallocating not only budget from salaries, but also existing technologies. If we have a bunch of cameras that we can use to kind of augment our ability to provide public safety, I think that's a fantastic approach. And again, kudos to you and your team for identifying those, long-term cost savings, but also kind of picking up that gap in the technological capability and doing something with it. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Narbe. Paul?
Again, thank you, Chief. With all due respect to the prior administration, there is definitely a different vibe, and I think it's not just felt by the 7 of us, but I think it's universal, and I do agree social media is part of that. I really appreciate your emphasis on school resource officer and community service officer. I hope I get that title right. One of the things I learned at the NOLA Council Conference was I didn't think about triggers. Like, we now have a non-marked mental health vehicle. A vehicle pulls up with police on the side, it's a trigger. And that could affect all the difference in the world. And I think it's the same thing with if someone shows up saying, here, I'm representing the police department, what can I do to help you? And they're not necessarily in uniform. It's less intimidating, but it's also providing the same role. So I appreciate that creativity. The opportunities for, as you know, with me, it's important that we have opportunities for our officers to spend time with our community and our children. That's why the helmet thing was so wonderful. I hope to continue to work with the Scout program. I think every opportunity we have to get a picture of a little girl putting on a pink helmet, getting on top of a pink police motorcycle, that is a memory that's going to last for a long time. And it's going to affect someone else's ability to tell her how bad policemen are. One of the things we talked about very early on was hiring within. I do agree with the responsibility of training the people within, especially in the last 2 decades where we had such an influx because we did have to turn things around. And so for the officers who have started their career with Burbank and are now coming up to the point where they might be considered for higher rank, I do think that I appreciate the fact that you have them in mind and you let them know that they don't need the lateral out to make rank or to make a position, take more responsibility, that this is their home, and we appreciate them. So I've said too much, but the most important thing all I want to do is say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Ann?
Thank you. I thought your report was excellent and well-focused. I kind of have 2 questions. One, I agree with Paul, surprise. I agree with Paul on the aspect of promotion from within is in itself a wonderful form of promoting mental health. If you know you're working for an organization where I'm believed, I'm encouraged, I'm supported, I can make it, that's a great boost. Second focus, an area of concern and interest of mine, of course, is mental health and wellness. So we had a loss of 8. Was that in this year or
That's within the last 7 months.
100 day. Okay, so it was part of the 100
within the
day.
last 7 months. Yeah,
Right.
we've lost 4 in training, had 1 lateral out, and a lot of it is for things beyond our control. The person that lateraled out closer to home grew up in a different
Right,
area.
totally get it.
And then through attrition, just retirements.
And I hear your concern and your desire to put money, time, and effort into mental health and wellness. How important is mental health and wellness in your efforts to recruit new officers? Does that become part of the new come on and work at Burbank?
Well, one of the things that we discussed during the OIR report was how we can incorporate mental health within our new hires and the program. That is something that we're currently looking at, currently exploring as far as how do we go about doing that. Understanding just even before they go out there, go to an academy, how we can better support them and manage and deal with the stress that they perceive that they are going to deal with not having been out in the field. So we're working through that and developing something for them. Being able to mitigate and manage stress accordingly just by the nature of the very profession, I think is important. So I would say that it's very, very important.
Just want to make sure I had a lot of notes. So I'm sorry. Do police officers, I just thought of this, do police officers have, there are these little things, I know teachers use them in dealing with EL on, English as a secondary language, with EL students in the classroom setting. Do police officers have these mini translator? It's like a little box thing. I'm just thinking of this now, but
To interact or
Yeah,
communicate with
interaction with
people that
community,
are
et cetera.
non-English speaking.
yeah,
We use a service via an iPad that is able to communicate, if correct, via an iPad or a phone number that we're able to call based on whatever language that we need translated.
okay. Thank you. That was just an odd question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ann. Anybody else?
Do I get to?
You want to go?
Do I
again?
get to jump back in?
You can jump back in.
All right, I
I'll
get to jump back
finish
in.
off with me.
I want to wrap it up. I want to share something with you because there's some things that you'd shared in your in your report and presentation I really appreciate that I wanted to lift up, and this is some advice that somebody gave me a long time ago. I was told as I moved into management positions that I needed 4 people in my life. At first it was 3, and then they added a 4th. The first one is I need a confidant, somebody that I can just tell the truth to no matter what, and vent and complain and do whatever and everything. The second person I need a cheerleader, somebody that's going to be out in the community, out in public, singing my praises no matter what, even when I falter. The third one is I need a critic. I need someone that's going to tell me the God's honest truth no matter what, even if I don't want to hear it. The fourth one that got added about 5 years ago, and it made sense for me, and when we're talking about technology, it's important, I need a mentor that's under the age of 30. So I want you to, and it can't be a family member, but I need a mentor that's under the age of 30. So I want to share that with you because you had actually identified a couple of things in the presentation. You didn't use the word cheerleader, but at one point you were talking about how the commission might be able to partner with you as well. I think partnering as a cheerleader is a piece of it, but I think that there's other pieces as well. I was a marching band guy, and we talk a lot about good leaders, and we talk about the importance of good followers as well. So one of the leadership roles, and you're demonstrating this, is being willing to follow the people and the advice and the direction that you're getting from folks, which is great. I want to wrap up my thought. Like I said, I got a lot of notes here, but I want to wrap up my thoughts specifically with something that you'd mentioned that I've come to the conclusion with. And I work in mental health, and I work with a lot of different people, and we work with severe and persistent mental health issues all the time. Bottom line, it comes down to relationships. Absolutely relationships. You were describing the importance of establishing relationships with the rank and file, with your leadership, with city leadership, with community leaders and business leaders as well. I can't emphasize enough that with all of the technology and all of the issues and all the things that we're going to talk about with OIR and everything else, I really will continue to encourage and support you in pursuing developing deep and meaningful relationships with the people that you're working with, because that's what's going to get all of us through the darkest moments. So I appreciate you lifting that up, and I just wanted to emphasize that from your report.
I agree, Commissioner Coombs. Absolutely agree. And I think you've heard me say it before, and I know I've said it to everyone. And I use it also as well as really finding not only meaningful connections, but also the relationships and building that out. And you connect on a much deeper level, create that trust factor that is necessary for me to come across, gives me that sense of legitimacy when I'm communicating or we're communicating, right? We each have respect, give deference to our respective experience, and that will lead to a much more fruitful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. And so, Chief, I just want to say thank you so much for your presentation. And, you know, in the short amount of time that we've gotten to know you, I feel like from someone who's spent time at the department, at the events for the last 4 years as the commissioner, I think the best way I can describe what I've seen in this department within the last 7 months is a spirit change. You know, and I know that comes from good leadership, and it comes from leadership that leads with heart. And what I love about what you said that it's about service above self, and anyone who understands that their priorities are, you know, at the end, they're focusing on the group, and that comes from good leadership. That comes from understanding that philosophy. And from everything that I've seen so far, first of all, thank you so much for the brand new website. As a web designer, it's fantastic to see a clean, fresh, modern website. You know, I also want to highlight that I know Commissioner Coombs mentioned it, and so did Commissioner Hartunian, the Intelligence Center. You know, me and James got a chance to tour BP and Glendale Police Department, and we saw the Intelligence Center. It was extremely impressive. So seeing that in the department one day, I think would be super impressive. But all in all, I think that, you know, in a short amount of time, you've accomplished wonderful things, and anything that we can do as a commission to support you in accomplishing your goals, we'd be happy to. So thank you so much again. And
Romick, I realize I do have one more thing to note that I wanted to lift
Sure,
up. I apologize.
go for
This is a technical
okay.
piece, but I want to emphasize this, and this is something that Narbe and I tripped across.
Sure.
And something you said just made me think of this. When we were preparing for the conference, we're sitting at a coffee shop on Magnolia, and something really weird happened. There was a car, little red car that drove up. Windows are tinted out, and it had like weird devices on the corners of it. And it kind of zoomed by quickly, and it was a little unnerving and everything. And then it drove by again a second time, and we started talking about it and wondering what it was. It turns out that they were cameras on all four corners, and we believe that they were license plate readers. And then probably within 30 seconds, an unmarked tow truck came by, scooped up a car, and took off with it right away. The reason I'm bringing this up is because when we were talking about budget and we were talking about technology, there's a long arc of this in law enforcement. Our department should have the same technology that private entities are using in our communities to be able to stay on top of it and monitor and manage that. I just wanted to share that real quick because
I agree with you, Commissioner Coombs.
Okay.
And ultimately that comes to money. The
Yeah.
private industry doesn't have the challenges or the processes that
Right.
we do within government, and depending on the organization, a little bit more of a budget than we have, and they have the resources and the capacity to get the latest and greatest. Best case example, historically, we had our personnel managing and overseeing parking enforcement, and we were doing the best that we could with the systems that we had.
Right.
Now we have LAS, parking enforcement, and kind of the technology that you just mentioned and referenced is what they have. They have the latest and greatest that can digitally tag license plates, give you those updates, let you know what's expired, not expired, versus what was a traditional method.
Right.
Chalking, putting a paper clip, and doing completely inefficient, requiring manual labor. And through that process, it's been able to automate and improve the level of services, definitely within the village, and just getting that flow of parking so people can come in, patronize the businesses accordingly, and create that level of efficiency.
Right.
So I hear you
Great.
loud and clear.
Great.
I wish, I just came from a conference in Denver, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, where you see the latest and greatest. Exhibit hall dedicated to nothing but technology, AI galore, robots, and it's kind of scary when you think about it, removing the humans from it and providing a certain level of service, even taking reports, automating so many features. And I'm even really mindful of that and what that means, right? Not wanting to take away jobs from our personnel. There's value to having a human being interact with another human being. You don't want it to be a very sterile and cold process when it comes to something that may be sensitive, because you're not going to get that from an Yeah,
Right.
you might get a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's not going to be able to read the certain emotions and kind of get the micro expressions that we as human beings create in that conversation.
Commissioners may remember from a few years ago, we got a presentation on, it was use of technology in a crime spree. This was, they were listening to radios and they were figuring out where law enforcement was, and they were stealing catalytic converters in other areas, and did a whole presentation. And part of what, it didn't necessarily come out of that, but part of the movement was to get a whole new communication system that's encrypted, and the why. This is why we need to be bringing this up and talking about this and advocating for it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Michael?
Well, I was going to keep my mouth shut because you said a lot, and it's a lot to digest. What I see, I mean, it's almost an impossible job in my mind, because if, improvements in technology are happening every minute, but your budget is fixed for a year. And it's just like, how do you plan for, in your budget, for new technology, when new technology that you want today might be obsolete by the time you get it bought? Also, what I know about technology is the technology is expensive to buy, but the maintenance contracts for it is terrible. So your budget is constantly in flux, and I think I give you a lot of credit because you're always trying to play catch up. You're never even, you're always behind. And also, I gotta say one thing, since I've done some ride-alongs with your officers, with the new software in the cars, it's fantastic, but it's also kind of information overload. There is so much information there, to digest it quickly takes a real talent. So I guess it's my question, if I have a question, is basically between AI and the regular technology, the future is much more complicated than it was before. And one last comment, I got to disagree with my Mr. Combs. I can remember this department when it was up around 170. So 160 is not a magic number, but being higher than 160, it's been done before. And I think as the city grows in population, it's good to set a goal at a higher number than say the status quo is good enough. That's all.
Thank you, Michael. And so I'm gonna end it with a question that I was just kind of formulating in my mind in regards to includes staffing, of course, but with the current incident that occurred at Burbank High School, I know SROs are a big conversation. I'm sure you guys might be having that. Where are we right now with SROs, and what's your vision for that? I know you briefly touched on it earlier, so.
So thank you for the question, and it's
Sure.
a question that I often receive, especially from parents, and then when you have certain incidents like the most recent one, definitely makes it top of mind. And then taking into consideration where we were, 5 years ago, where we had, I want to say at 1.46 SROs, that was better times when we had the appropriate amount of resources. As you all know, it ultimately comes down to priorities. And essential services, 911, patrol response to 911 calls that we receive are essential. And I would love to do everything and everything. I would love to have 6 SROs within the schools. I just don't have the capacity for it right now. Eventually, I'd like to come back and say when we are at 160, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to prioritize SROs, understanding that our students are absolutely important, also developing that relationship, right? And hoping with the interest as you develop that relationship within the community gives people a sense of safety. I'll slide them and do a variety of other things that will benefit the greater community. Those are all things that are planned out in the future. I hope that by 2026, maybe towards the end of 2026, I am at 160, striving for that 170, because to Mr. Elman's point, the city has grown substantially. You see all the development within the density that's being created in the downtown area. Buildings are going up, and we haven't responded appropriately. But I will say, I have council's commitment, I have the city manager's commitment, and you've seen it. I think earlier this year, their city goals was to right-size public safety, PD, and fire, and bring it up in line with what's appropriate per capita for how we are growing as a city. So we're not there yet. The answer is we're not there yet, but my intention is to reprioritize things like SROs as well as other specialty assignments within the organization.
Thank you, Chief. And with that, thank you so much for your presentation.
Real quick,
Oh.
it was a comment that someone had made earlier. And look, I would love to be up here and take credit for everything that we've accomplished in the last 7 months. But the reality is, like, all the credit goes to the men and women of the organization. This report, even preparing this and working through this, making sure that it wasn't long, and I hope it wasn't long. You know, Lieutenant Fecketti really took a part in that. The deputy chief, my number 2, who has been a godsend for me within the organization and really kind of being that confidant that you mentioned, I know I can rely on him. And when I don't try or even say that I have all the answers, because the reality is I don't, and I'm still learning as I'm going. Having people like them and others within the organization that I can defer and really highlight what we do and our successes, that's what I wanted to mention.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to move to item 2 and items of business. Review and recommendations, if applicable, of the OIR report presented at the Joint City Council and Police Commission meeting on October 14, 2025. So I'm going to go ahead and just open it up to everybody in regards to a discussion about the OIR report. Any recommendations? Any comments? We can start with Narbe. We started with James last time.
Yeah, it's your turn to start.
Yeah,
and
you
I'll,
start.
I'll come in and support.
Yeah, thank you. The OIR review was very, very eye-opening. I think it's a fantastic process. And then going back and looking at last 5, 10 years worth of OIRs, interesting to kind of see the trend. And I totally agree with a lot of the conclusions that the group had about our department. And I understand why they're sharing some of the successes here as best practices to other jurisdictions nearby. I think it's fantastic. I did one of the questions that came up during that OIR was kind of the response process that the city has. And I know this year, generally, I think of the 16 recommendations that were in the OIR report for 2024. I think the department in chief acknowledged and accepted all of those and either had implemented or stated they would be implementing, for the most part, those recommendations. But going back just a couple of years, I noticed there were a lot of lingering kind of responses where, for example, a recommendation was made, the department of the city said that they would look into that issue, and I don't think we ever had a good follow-on process for that. Some of those items get addressed incidentally in other OIRs, and I kind of wanted to talk about one or two that came up in the OIR this year. There was a buried recommendation in the OIR, I think, when they were talking about like drive stun. I didn't realize what a big issue that was within the community, but one of the recommendations was that we review our policy and either limit the use of dry stun or kind of move away from it. Sounds like we have some feedback on that.
I'm jumping in, sir.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, Adam Cornell's deputy chief. And yes, the drive stun, so that was a function of the previous models of tasers that we used. There was a lot of conversation about that policy-wise. We actually found a solution that's going to solve our policy problem by changing the taser. We're at a taser 10 now, which actually doesn't even have that capability anymore, and that's been issued out to all of our folks.
Awesome. Yeah. James and I got to test fire a couple of those taser 10s.
Not on each other.
Not on each other. Yeah.
I would have paid to see that.
Yeah. We'll agendize that for a future meeting. But that's great. And I assume obviously the policy is going to follow the technology, and if it's not possible, then.
Does everybody know what we're talking about when you talk about the dry stun or the drive stun?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if everybody on the commission knows about that.
I can provide an explanation.
Please. Yeah.
So previous models of the tasers, or the current models also, but they have a function called a probe deployment, where they release a pair of darts connected to wires that have an electrical charge. The probes, when they make contact, they spread across a muscle group. That electrical charge locks up the muscles body-wide, allows us to take control of the person. They also had a function for what I would call a close encounter, where you're not going to get sufficient spread from those probes, which was the drive stun, which allowed the charge to be delivered by contact, by making contact with the person and delivering the charge that way. One of the issues with that is, again, it has the same problem of it being a short spread. It doesn't have the spread over a large muscle group, and it doesn't really incapacitate somebody. It's really just a pain compliance tool. What we found in experience with it is the response to that pain is usually not to comply. It's usually to jerk away and make some pretty provocative movements, which usually leads to extra force being used to take that person into custody. So it sometimes served against our interests when we were using it. But that's been resolved by the hardware now.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then just more broadly, I know OIR group was tasked by the council during the review to kind of go back and build out a list of what some of those those lingering questions might look like. So I'm new to the process. I'm not sure if they'll provide that feedback directly to the council, or if we have a point of contact at OIR to follow up on that request from the council. But I think that might be worthwhile just to kind of go back and see, because just like this issue, I'm sure there's been a lot of like historic recommendations that have either organically or deliberately been applied, and policy changes have been made. It'd be nice to know kind of how that's happened beyond just that recommendation memo, the response memo in response to the recommendations on a year-to-year basis. I'd like to see kind of what that looks like.
Thank you, Narbe.
Yeah.
And Narbe is an absolute resource when it comes to navigating this stuff. He and I were having a conversation at the conference, and then like in the next session, he's like, here, I've got it all put together. And he's like downloading and pulling information together. So thank you for that. And I'm hoping that we can tap into you as a resource more with the commission in the future. Couple of things, some general things about the report. That I wanted to lift up in this, again, this is in the context of going to the conference as well, and with OIR and Mike Giannacco presenting at the conference. I'm hoping that we can try to find a way to bring the report as a whole into life for the commission throughout the year. The structure that we've got, where we're just seeing it a few days before when city council sees it, and then it feels, as you described it, it feels a little disjointed in terms of how we're able to engage around the report with the city council. One of the things that we learned, and I'm not asking the city to do this, but one of the things that we learned is that OIR also has a contract with City of Pasadena and their commission there. They actually have a member from OIR sit in their commission meeting every month. And one of the things that we've got here in Burbank, which is a little bit of a challenge, is that we don't get to see the stuff that OIR works on. We don't get to see until that window in October every year. Whereas in other settings, OIR does have a model where they're actually providing the information year round, and there's some engagement and dialogue around that. So I wanted to lift that up as it feels just as a disjointed element with this report in particular in terms of how we receive it. Wanted to bring that up. The second thing that I want to bring up is that I wanted to go specifically to recommendation number 11 and recommendation number 12. One of them is about the pursuit philosophy, and the second one is about the structured and community engagement or service component to its training program. I want to approach these from a slightly different angle, if we can. I'm making this as a recommendation, and then we as a commission may want to make this as a recommendation as well. There's a series of things that happened. There was the OIR report. There was going to NACOL. There was coming home and my spouse discovering a TV show called Elsbeth. And then there was some conversations I've had. In my day job, I work with a couple of different departments. And it turns out that some other departments have staff that are fans of the show Elsbeth and everything. I want to come back to the first universal truth that I identified at the conference, and it was that criticism is uncomfortable. And so all of this is, what I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping that we can deepen our relationship with the department so it doesn't feel right that the presentations are often just a show and tell. if that makes sense. That's a lot of staff time to be able to put together reports. We're hearing information. If we look over the history of this commission, we get information, and we haven't made a whole lot of recommendations or really been engaged in next steps related to the presentations and everything. What I'm hoping to do, and I'm looking at number 11 and number 12 specifically, is with number 11, it's the pursuit policy. I'm hoping that we might be able to participate in the ongoing discussions outside of the commission meetings around helping develop and offer from the community perspective, from the civilian perspective, input on the development of that and other policies as those things happen. The second is again, this kind of recommendation 12, and the response, it's that show and tell piece again. What I'm hoping that we can do is we as a commission can get more engaged in not just seeing an end product, but being able to participate in, sit in on trainings, sit in on when something moves from policy to implementation, that we can actually participate in seeing how it's implemented. It's silly with the Elsbeth thing, but the theme there is that there's a certain element of discomfort which actually results in a better product overall. And so I wanted to lift up those two recommendations specifically because the way the recommendations are here, there's OIR's recommendation and then there's the department's response, and both responses, and it's kind of peppered throughout some of the other ones. There's an element of, we'll look into this, we'll see how this works. I'd like to see if we can find a way for commissioners, either individually as consultants or as a commission as a whole, to be able to participate in the development of that and then to be able to report out on that relationship building and that level of transparency. Again, it can be uncomfortable, but I think we'd build a better product as a result.
Thank you, James. Michael?
Isn't the contract with OIR up for negotiation right now, or this year?
It expires in May of '26.
Oh, okay. So maybe if we do have some recommendations, we should pass them on to the council of what can help them, because I'm in agreement with James that we get the report at the very last minute, and again, it takes a long time to digest this stuff. So I hope that we have a little bit of, our input will be included in spring of 2026.
Thank you, Michael. Paul?
Going back to the last couple of years of OIR reports, I have had some questions and some follow-ups on specific things because OIR makes recommendations, not policy. And the two in particular that I had questions on, they both ended up being things that were almost 50-50 across the board. Universal police forces had questions about and how they were going to handle it. So it's not, their recommendations are just that, they're recommendations, they're not absolutes. I appreciate the fact that our department is open to them. And I even asked questions about body cams and things when I was at the conference because of the OIR report. And second, to your comment, criticism is uncomfortable. I would say also as a leader, I welcome someone who complains, because someone who complains cares. Mm-hmm. Complacency is dangerous. Complaints are, if they're handled in the appropriate manner, means that somebody cares, and essentially as a leader, I always felt I could put that person to work. That usually shut them up. I mean, please them. But so I appreciate the fact that our department, I believe, is not open to what I call criticism, but open to observations and suggestions that they can continue to move forward. Because, like I said, I have two questions in the last couple of years that specifically pertain to body cams, and both talking to the police department and to the body cam people, the explanations were 100% appropriate, just things that a normal person doesn't think of. And even though IR does this for a living, I don't think they walked a mile in those boots. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
A quick question.
Yeah.
Is there a historical reason for why the OIR report comes to us, what, right at the end there?
There's a technical reason.
So no, I can answer that. So there's a review process that happens. The OIR report is actually a contract made with the city attorney's office for the oversight of the police department, and it was established that way several years ago. But what happens is OIR has the opportunity to receive the data, receive the whatever criteria they seek in that year's review process. Then they review the records, complaints, things like that, and they formulate a report. That report has to be reviewed for not only legal issues, potential litigation, things like that need to be redacted or removed from the report. So there is an oversight process just from the city attorney's office in terms of the OIR report in general. This year, for some reason, it just took a little bit longer for us to get a finalized version of the draft report. We're going to work with OIR next year and in the following years to try to get this earlier so that we can have an opportunity to bring it to the police commission before we take it to council. That way you guys have an input on, or have seen the report and also can provide some feedback on what the contents are, or your perspective is on the actual recommendations, and then we can present it to council thereafter.
That's helpful. So the 3 days before, when everybody gets it, that's not a standard practice then? It's been that way for the last 5 years, so I assume that that's the way it always was.
We're going to aim for an earlier draft to be given to the police commission. We've spoken at the city attorney's office that may be a useful tool for us in the future.
Does that have to be released to the public at the same time?
Yes, if it's going to be going to the police commission, it would have to be released to the public pursuant to the Brown Act. So that's the other concern. So we are going to attempt to do this, and I think it would be a useful tool, at least for a review of the recommendations. But for this year, it was because it took a while for us to get a draft and then provide feedback on the draft and then get a final version out, and that's what caused the delay this year.
So it has to be back-timed, if you will, from it leaves them, it comes to city attorney, they need time, and then comes to the commission, which also needs time.
Correct.
So that could be, 2 weeks?
Yeah,
10
I'd have to
days?
go through the schedule. I don't know the exact details off the top of my head, but I would say at least a month before, because we have to have our opportunity to review and then also post it in accordance with the agenda policies and notice requirements for the police commission. So.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. So, go ahead.
Quick follow-up question on that. Just from talking to some of the folks at OIR, I get the sense that there's the recommendations that make it into the report, and then there's a lot of things that come up just by the nature of the collaborative process that they have with the department. Are those documented anywhere? Like if they bring up a suggestion in the process of doing a ride-along, or if they address an issue that the department's already kind of corrected, are those things that internally we kind of keep track of?
I can only speak with my experience from the past year because I haven't been in this role for previous years. This year, everything that was suggested, discussed, made it into the report. You'll see a few recommendations in there where the response is, we've already done this.
Yep.
That still made it into the official report. I haven't received informal suggestions or had a back and forth where we made a side agreement to address something independently of the report.
Okay.
I'm going to add to that a little bit more, and there were some other areas, as the deputy chief mentioned, that we did address within, but there are some areas that require a little bit more research, being a little bit more thoughtful in how we implement or execute, and even determine we're agreeing to what the report is stating based on their experience, acknowledging that it can be a best practice, but then in execution and implementation may not be a best practice. As far as keeping anything written or documented associated, I'm also new. You have my commitment that we will be a little bit more thoughtful and be able to document it more appropriately, so when these discussions have it, we can have information. And I will say, and I said it to the commissioners when we met, I'm okay with you challenging me. That's what your role is, and as an advisory body, hold me accountable on behalf of the community. I welcome it. I am an open book. My organization is. I can guarantee you that everything that we are doing is professionalism, top of mind, ensuring that we are as transparent as possible to ensure that we maintain the trust of the community.
Thank you, Chief.
We know where you roll in the mornings. Thanks for social media.
Thank you,
I
Chief.
have a question for Ray on that. Deputy Chief Cornelius talked about May of 2026. Is that the expiration date, or is that the renewal date of the current contract?
It's the expiration date.
Okay.
So there will be, most likely, from my understanding, negotiations to enter into a new contract with OIR.
When do those negotiations begin?
I mean, as a departmental attorney, we try to execute these agreements or extensions of agreements before or prior to the expiration date.
Okay.
So it just depends on when both sides have the opportunity to discuss.
And the contract's public information, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to actually make a motion on this to make a recommendation when we're ready.
Okay. Thank you, Ray. James?
Sure. I'd like to motion that we establish an ad hoc subcommittee to review and make recommendations on the renewal of the OIR contract. That would commence immediately, and it would expire no later than May of 2026.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Open up for discussion? Okay.
I understand your sentiment, but I think it's overstepping our bounds. It's something that's been done this way successfully. I'm kind of, if it's not broke, why fix it kind of guy, and I don't see what the problem is, and unless we're looking for one.
I agree with Paul. It's a little bit, above our pay grade, I think. And we have a system that's working. If we can really understand the need to change it, I would support it, but I don't understand the need right now.
Ann?
I would always ask, is the intent to make something that's a work in progress, is it an intent to make something that's broken better?
So if that's a question to me, it's not to make something that's broken better, it's to make something better.
Better.
And if I can add to that, it's the recommendation is to review and make recommendations on. It's not to tell anybody what to do.
Right, or to criticize.
It's just well, there may be criticism involved, but it's going to be to review in a meaningful way, review the document, and make recommendations if we have any on the renewal process itself. We don't have the power to decide what's going to be in that contract. I know that. This is just to make recommendations on what's in the contract.
I would think that maybe for a one-time, like you said, a specific subcommittee that's got a beginning and an end, it might be warranted. Just nothing like this has ever happened before and used before.
I can recommend kind of a framework. I think where James is coming from, and I totally understand it, is that there's a lot of other cities, jurisdictions that use OIR and similar contracts with other organizations that are doing things differently, and I think this would really be kind of going to those departments and bringing back any good ideas that we think are good. And actually, a lot of those recommendations came from OIR, but how they do things and different services they can offer, and groups like OIR. So I think a lot of this would just be information gathering and presenting to the commission. I think just overall, I think the intent would be, obviously the report itself is very valuable and delivers a lot of good information to the council, but there might be ways to do that on a more frequent basis or more kind of a granular basis to make sure the council and the city is up to date on kind of their findings and things that come across that way.
Michael?
I remember years back in our previous police commissions that they actually brought up the subject of, are there other companies that do this type of report other than OIR? So, I mean, there's so much opportunity and flexibility. It's I think it's something that the other departments, parts of the city are better at than we are.
Paul?
I think first and foremost, one of the things that we've been tasked with the last 4 years have been to not put more administrative responsibility on the police department. I think we are here to be an asset. We are not here to fill their inbox. And I think this is just another step in a procedure that's working very well, and I appreciate your concern. I would love more information, but not at the expense of requiring OIR or the city attorney's office or the police department to make an additional presentation.
Thank you, Paul. And so what I will say is this is a motion I can't support. And the reason why is because we have to be mindful. When we make recommendations, first thing we have to remember is, are we aligning ourselves with the city council goals? Most importantly, does city council want us to do this? Number two. And number three, what is the intent and the impact of what we're trying to agendize? I think that's what's really important that we have to focus on is we have to start with the first one first, and then we move down the line. And I think that's really important to keep in mind because we're being mindful of not only the department, but also of city council, but also mindful of our time as well. Because let's just say we have this discussion, we come up with a recommendation. We provide it to council, and they come back and say, well, this isn't something we need right now. That's time wasted. So we want to make sure that whatever we do is timely and it makes sense. And that's my personal opinion on it, but that's why I can't support this motion. So, it's been seconded. Yeah, so what we can do is, since it's been seconded, we can put it up to vote, and we can go from there. I believe.
Narbe did.
Narbe.
Could you rephrase that motion again?
Sure. The motion is to establish an ad hoc subcommittee to review and make recommendations on the renewal of the OIR contract. It would begin immediately, and it would conclude no later than May 2026.
Can I clarify something briefly? So we are going to be renewing the OIR contract.
Yeah.
So is there a more specific request you're looking to achieve here?
No, it's pretty straightforward. It's to have an ad hoc subcommittee of the commission to review that contract and to make any if they have any recommendations, make any recommendations on the contract before it is renewed. That's it.
We do not get to participate in anything with OIR, but we can make an advisory to the council or maybe a recommendation to the city manager. Part of the things that we have are, there's a requirements doc that is created by the city that they're asking the company to respond to. We have no input in that. There is also a situation where we have the same company repeatedly doing an audit. That's the purpose of this company, and the audit is it's an audit like you go to the bank and make sure everything's there and give a review of what's going on. You wouldn't necessarily in a bank use the same company to do the audit multiple times in a row. You would want to make sure that your auditors are getting a wider perspective. But we haven't even taken that opportunity to expand a little bit in saying that, yeah, we've got some ideas. Do you want to hear them? So I'm very supportive of what you're suggesting there.
Yeah.
Are we really to the point, are we allowed to do that? Like you mentioned, do we need to perhaps make sure that this is in the realm of what city council wants us to take on? Because then I have to retract what I said. But if it's within our realm, then I think we can discuss what you have proposed. If we have to first find out, can we do this? And that's going to be a no, then
Can I respond to that?
yes. And
that's why I was asking you the question. It's a public document.
Mm-hmm.
We could do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather do it above board and be able to report back on any recommendations that we have.
do we need a city council okay to say that that's okay? Yeah, that's in your realm, or I don't know.
It's a review it's a review of records related to policing in the
Okay.
city of Burbank. That's in our charter.
All right.
I just
Thank
think
you.
that if any of us have recommendations as residents, we can send an email to the city attorney's office or
Yeah.
to the city council and tell them this is our recommendation as a citizen of this city.
Thank you, Michael. And I would say I have to agree. I think that the questions I have to ask my colleagues who do support this motion is does this fall in line with the goals of City Council?
I mean, I would just say like a recommendation off the top of my head would be, for example, the scope of this RFP. Like, did it ever take into account what the city council is looking for? Are there ways to add or improve kind of the direction that we give the audit before the audit begins? I mean, to me, it's kind of we can draft a recommendation specifically in line with, gearing future audits towards what the objectives of the council are. I think that'd be useful as opposed to OIR coming and being like, well, we've historically reviewed these set of circumstances within the department, and these were the findings, so we're not going to look at that anymore. Instead, we're going to look at these things, and to me, the OIR, it seems like there's a finite set of things they can look at every year, and that grouping gets smaller and smaller. Some of the feedback that I got from people at OIR and other jurisdictions is that there's other asks that we can make of OIR to kind of improve those the way they do those audits. I think within the scope of the current contract, I think they do the same thing every year.
And I'll just add, I think we have the subject matter expertise on this commission to be able to have 3 people to review that and have a discussion about it.
I noticed that at all city council meetings, a lot of times a council person makes a suggestion, we can do this or that in the next year's OIR report, and then it comes back to, well, we can ask, but it's also going to cost more money. So, that's all I have to say.
Right.
So I just want to say this, and I think that some of you have already kind of given this sentiment, but this report has been entered into by the city attorney's office. We have evaluated what criteria we want to have this oversight of the police department, and it stems back way before my time, but obviously it came out of a certain situation, and there are certain areas that we do want OIR to review and comment on. I don't believe that it would be useful for the commission at this point to spend time on those recommendations, because those are areas that we want to see oversight on as a city attorney's office and as a city generally. And I think it would be worth an opportunity to speak to city council, on your own time and see if what their thoughts are on the OIR report that have been coming to them for the last 12 years. But I'll leave it at that. I think as an advisory body, you have the ability to review the reports and make comments on the reports. In terms of the contract itself, it's not the police department that's entering that contract. It's the city attorney's office. So it's a different situation, and there's a different purpose for why we have that audit yearly. So.
Thank you, Ray. So do we still want to go for a vote?
Oh, you have to.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the process.
Okay, so we have a second. So
It's already been seconded.
Can we repeat the motion?
Can you read the motion?
I'll repeat it one more time. This is, recommendation is to establish an ad hoc subcommittee to review and make recommendations on the renewal of the OIR contract to commence immediately and to conclude no later than May 2026.
Okay, so let's go ahead and call it for a vote. You made your motion, Narbe second. We'll call it for a vote, and I believe, I just call the vote?
You call it.
Oh, okay. So everyone who wants to move forward with the motion, raise your hands. Everyone who does it? Motion's been carried. Thank you, everyone. Just to add some final comments on that, we have to make sure that we're aligning
Actually,
ourselves.
to help with the process, it's all wrapped up.
Okay.
Business is
Done.
concluded on that, correct? Ray?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, James. So now we're going to go ahead and, with that, since we concluded business item number 2, so next we're going to have general announcements by Police Chief Quintero, brief announcements regarding upcoming events or items of note related to the police department.
One second.
There are no recommendations anyway.
That's what it sounds like.
And
On October 27, just want to acknowledge the Detective Bureau, the Gangs, Property, and Special Investigations Division received a Centurion Award for Excellence in Investigation based on an ongoing investigation of South American theft group suspects. Spearheaded by the Burbank Police Department detectives in partnership with LA Impact, Homeland Security Investigations, and other municipal police departments. Investigators identified key suspects, tracked their movements across state lines, executed dozens of search warrants, and which led to the arrest of 35 South American theft group members and the recovery of substantial stolen property from residential burglaries and other crimes committed over a wide area including Burbank, Santa Barbara, Cerritos, Seal Beach, Beverly Hills, Scottsdale, Arizona, and other states. Really prestigious award that our detectives received for the outstanding work that they did and continue to do. We graduated 4 recruits from the police academy. You heard me mention that earlier, hired an additional academy graduate and 5 new persons joining our police ranks. On December 10th, we have Shop with a Cop at the Walmart. Starts at 5 p.m. and we are partnering with the Burbank Housing Corporation to identify children who participate in the event based on their family's need. This is being sponsored by Walmart, the Kiwanis Club of Burbank, Rotary of Burbank, the Burbank Police Officers Association, and the Burbank Police Foundation. On December 11, we will be having a, just confirming, was that the date that we had settled on, December 11th? I think we might be moving. Initially, it was December 11th. Yeah, that's a promotion ceremony for the personnel that we promoted during this deployment period, and it'll be the last one of the year. On December 20th, we have the gun buyback event, which will be at the back lot of the police station from 9 a.m. to noon. The police department will be anonymously accepting unwanted firearms in exchange for gift cards. For residents of Burbank, yes, we recognize that the anonymous part makes it impossible to verify residency, but before. And that's it.
Thank you, Chief. And now we're going to move on to item H, introduction of agenda items for future meetings. So just so everyone knows, for January, we have the last parking presentation discussion on the annual military report, and presentation on the function of the police community resource officer. So that leaves us with, we have February. Any agenda items anyone wants to introduce? Ann?
I don't know if this is an agenda item or an idea, what. I'd like to suggest that we consider having members of the Cadet and Explorer program perhaps do our Pledge of Allegiance. We've talked about getting the word out there, as these programs are great for, kids and older kids. Is that an idea or an agenda item or I don't know.
Right.
Or just something we can do.
I can
or-
only address the reasonableness of it. The explorers are usually youth 16 to 18, and on nights, school night, they have other priorities. That would be a discussion with their parents for them to come here and actually do the pledge. I love the thought in having them show up. The cadets, similar set of circumstances, college students.
Yeah.
They're busy in their evening hours, and it would be past their normal working hours, so I
That
would
might
have
be
to
a
be
problem.
keeping them over. If we had it at an earlier time during their work, I think it would be much more reasonable, but I can't expect them. I can ask
We
and
could
make
ask.
the requests on maybe one time, maybe for 2026, seeing if that would be something that they would like to do
Or
for the
one or
reasons that
two
you
at a
said.
time in their uniform, and their parents get to take pictures. It's a swell idea, perhaps.
I can ask.
And it's also promotional of a good program.
So do you want to agendize?
Do I agendize that? What is it?
Can I?
Can I make a
more like
recommendation?
public
It's just
recommendation.
it's just a
Absolutely.
recommendation. I'm also, Paul, I'm thinking specifically about you and the work that you do with scouts and everything, and there's nothing that would prevent you from inviting scouts to come to attend a meeting to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I think you've actually done that before.
Yes, and actually, our scouts have done for the city council on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
So on a special event type basis, it is obviously something you can work around. But as the chief pointed out, it's basically either they have a meeting tonight or they probably have some other activities. So
Yeah.
we are interfering with that. But yes, chief, before we leave, I need to speak to you about the Explorer program.
Thank you, Paul. So we'll just leave it as a recommendation. So any other items anyone wants to agendize?
I think we should wait till January and see what because things change. And I think we have a very full agenda for January. And then I think that, we have a month off. It'll give us a chance to see what becomes important to us. And I think it'll be very easy to fill 3 for February if we wait till January without drawing at straws right now.
Oh, no, I'm going to get to my agenda items. So if anybody else doesn't have any agenda items, there's two I do want to introduce for February. So the first one I'd like to agenda is a discussion on how we structure agenda items to align with city council goals and to clearly define purpose, outcomes, and community impact. So I'll make a motion for that. Anyone seconds? Paul seconds. Call for a vote. Everyone for yays?
Yay.
Everyone agrees? Wonderful. Motion passes. And the second agenda item I would like to introduce is for February, is I'd like to agenda as a discussion on strengthening and refining our existing community engagement efforts.
I second your motion.
And seconds, sure. I'd like to agenda as a discussion on strengthening and refining our existing community engagement efforts. And explore new possibilities.
I agree. I think, yeah.
I second.
Second, okay, so and seconds, so vote for yes?
Yes.
All approve? Wonderful. Agenda is for February. Thank you, everyone. So if there's no any other agenda items that we want to agendize, our next meeting will be on January 21st, 2026 at 4 p.m. in City Council chambers. It says 4 p.m.? Is that correct?
That's the military,
Is that right?
Presentation.
military presentation.
Oh, you're right.
That-
Another
that-
present. Okay,
that's
wonderful.
Always a little earlier.
All right, wonderful. And so everyone have a happy
Mr. Chairman,
holidays.
Is there just, the meeting is solely about military? Is there a separate time for,
Our
So
meeting
it seems like
follows
we
that.
have the last parking and we also have the community resource officer presentation.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
wonderful. All right, everyone.
Thank
Well, thank you
Happy
so much,
holidays, ladies
and
gentlemen.
meeting is adjourned.